That's not good. What's going on?
All right, everybody ready?
You already started, is that okay? But you already started a video.
We're
Okay.
recording.
Am I good?
Yep.
Alright, my final statement is that an excessive number of basketball players have consistency problems. And then I want to try and find what are these players doing that causes this. I have a lot of definitions required because I'm tracing three different things. I'm tracing symptoms of patellar tendinopathy, I'm tracing workload, and I'm tracing player sleep. So I have 5 different things I need to define. The first thing is patellar tendinopathy. What that is a degeneration of the patellar tendon, which is right below your patellar bone on your knee. And then I also need to define some basic processes of collagen synthesis, same with sleep recovery, some sleep stages, and sleep disorders. But that will depend on if I actually end up with anyone that will have sleep disorders, as I'm not given my full sample yet. What tendinopathy is, it's a condition in the tissue where our tendon becomes inflamed. So if you have an excess workload, so you're running 10 miles in a day and your body has not been conditioned to that already, then the tendon will become inflamed acutely, and that's tendinitis. If this keeps on reoccurring over time, this will become tendinosis, which is what I'm primarily looking for over the course of my study. Collagen synthesis. So the reason tendinosis will happen is that the collagen in the tendon will degenerate. So here's a diagram of what a healthy tendon should look like. You have collagen fibers going like parallel with each other, and then you have fibroblasts, which will create more fibers. And then once you have more and more of these, this is a fibril, they will continue together, combining into our different primary, secondary, tertiary fibers or bundles, to eventually make a tendon. And the goal is to have I couldn't find a diagram that was good for unhealthy tendon, but what it looks like is that all these collagen fibers, they're all over the place. They're not straight. They're not going to efficiently process energy. I also need to define sleep staging. So there's two main types of sleep. There's non-REM and then there's REM sleep. I don't need to focus that much on REM sleep. That's primarily for cognitive function, so a lot of memory recall, which it does have some effect on your coordination, and so you're less likely to, or you have a slightly higher chance of injury because of that, but much more important is non-REM sleep, and specifically deep sleep. When deep sleep happens, you have a lot of bodily functions where the body or muscles will recover, and then primarily through growth hormone, which will tell other parts of your body to regenerate, essentially. And then sleep disorders, I think this will be very important if I end up with someone with something like sleep apnea, which is, for a sleep disorder, I gotta change that. But sleep apnea is probably the most common you're gonna find. It's pretty much breathing disturbances in your sleep. I don't remember how many had it, but it's somewhat common compared to the rest of these. And then another thing that I think can pop up a lot is traumatic brain injury, like a concussion. So if I'm able to track if someone had a concussion at the start of my survey, then I should likely see they have worse sleep than my sample population. And then that should correlate with a worse or worsening patellar tendinopathy symptoms. I have 3 key studies. The first is internal and external workload in youth basketball players by Gallagher et al. What it is, it's one of many surveys, or one of many survey research studies that have been done on patellar tendinopathy in basketball players. But this one, it looks only at workload, which is there's been no others or studies on basketball players with patellar tendinopathy or any kind of tendinopathy in any sport with sleep. But this one looks primarily at workload, and I want to be very similar, or I want to ask similar questions in terms of workload to this. Here's a source for me, or for me personally, to understand patellar tendinopathy more. Like how it happens, how it's diagnosed, how you should properly increase load over time, and then some other treatment options. And then my mentor actually made this one, Michael Grander, Sleep and Athletic Performance. It is a great resource on recovery through sleep and how it will affect performance after different periods of sleep loss, and it's a great source. I have a huge gap in my study. There has been I could find a singular study on tendinopathy and its prevalence after worsening sleep or with worse sleep, which that's going to be the primary focus of my study. But then I also want to look at workload, so how often players are training, so if they're practicing 6 days a week, they're lifting twice, that's going to be a much higher workload than someone who's practicing 5 days a week and they're not doing any conditioning, like let's say up and backs instead of, yeah. And then in terms of workload, what I'm specifically going to track, and history of workload, is past knee injury, what you did working up to the season. So if someone played football or they ran cross country, or if they play AAU basketball, I'm going to track total time of exercise through the coaches. So I'm also working with coaches, and they're going to say, we practice XYZ day, and we practiced for this long, we ran this many up and backs, or we did this many drills that were meant to be very challenging for the players. And then they'll also detail their games, as well as some of the players' like playing time. And then I want to try and ask the perceived difficulty from players and coaches. So if they thought like Tuesday the coach was just like giving them some crazy drill where they were dying, I want to see if there's something like that. And I'm also tracking if they're doing physical therapy, if they're lifting weights, or if they're static stretching. My research method, I'm pretty sure I'm doing an ex post facto study where I'm gathering all the information, but I'm doing it through surveys, so I have to make sure. Additional approval processes I think I'll need for my study. I have already created an IRB form. I've got it approved since I'm working with, technically I'm working with health record, well, not actual health records, but health information of people under 18, and I'm using human participants, obviously. I talked to my mentor, he said it's a very low risk survey, so as long as he doesn't foresee any problems with like trying to get information, and all my data is going to be anonymized. So after I get the IRB form from a player with their parent signature, their signature, acknowledging that they understand what it's going to be, I'm going to anonymize them over the study and just keep track of their progress, pretty much. And I'm not imposing any treatments. So. The data I will be generating is through two surveys that I was found or recommended to, and then I'm going to make my own questions for workload. So the OSTRCP is it's a variation of the OSTRC, which is an overuse survey. So it looks at like how often, or pretty much how fatigued are the players, and this is specific to knee pain, and specifically the patella tendon. And then there's the self-assessment of sleep survey, which I was recommended by my mentor, and he said it's the most standardized sleep survey he's found so far. And then the questions I'm making for workload, I want to try and defer from what has already been found to broaden that angle. The data analysis. Once I get all the surveys, I'm using Google Forms. It goes straight into Google Sheets. And I have player identifiers, so I'm going to put all the I can sort the players by if they all have a certain variable. So if they are all centers, or if they're all point guards, or they're all above 6 foot. If I want to do it by they're all on this team, they all show PT symptoms. There's a bunch of different ways I can look for, my timeline. I am collecting data right now. So I'm gonna send the initial player survey out very, very soon, as I just got it approved by my mentor. And I'm already collecting data from coaches on how much their players are training. And I am going to do that until one of my teams is done, which their final game is February 13th. And then after that, I want to analyze the data, and I believe I can do that in 3 weeks. And also, I have time during it to analyze some data. The coaches and the players, they also wanted to see, or they wanted to receive feedback. So I'm gonna, if the coach says, hey, did you notice anything that you think would be a problem with the way we're training, they want to know about it. And then my paper presentation, and I can do literature review here, but I have a bunch of time. The studies, or what I perceive the impact is going to be, is I can find PT symptoms specifically in sleep, but also in workload and just in different angles, and I can give individual coaches and players feedback. Well, my mentor, Michael Grander, he finally got back to me. That's all I have.
Let's let these guys go. Thank you, everybody. Who has to go tomorrow still? Nigel, put that shirt back in the bag, and Olivia. Okay. Ryan, just this.